This is another marvelous video. I'm Grayson Ottaway. Steven Spielberg is one of the greatest directors and talented writers who has been a pioneer of blockbusters for quite a while. His work in science fiction thrillers is vastly appreciated, as he directed evergreen movies such as Jurassic Park and Holocaust. His film E.T. the Extraterrestrial also got drastic applause from the critics as it connected to the audience of the time. Even in the present time, the film is quite relevant among children. Given its popularity, Spielberg wanted to make a sequel named E.T. 2 Nocturnal Fears, written by the original writer of the first film, Melissa Mathison. But this sequel was not intended to be as wholesome as the previous one. So why exactly did Spielberg back off? What was the dark theme of it? And how would it be connected to E.T. the Extraterrestrial? Many questions as such come to mind, so we've decided to explore them all in today's video. Before we get going though, a little request. If you like our content, please click the subscribe to this channel. It means so very much to us. Here we go. E.T. What was E.T. all about, and why was it so special? Written by Melissa Mathison, E.T. the Extraterrestrial was released in 1982 and has been a core memory of many millennials. This was one of a kind due to its unique storyline, plot delivery, as well as the use of special effects which were way ahead of anything of the time. Steven Spielberg not only directed but co-produced this evergreen movie. We're sure you already know this, but let's recap. The film follows a storyline of a lonely boy named Elliot who encounters a stranded extraterrestrial being, E.T. They become friends and share the sweetest bond of friendship. It takes us through an adventure of getting the newly made alien friend back to his home without letting any grown-ups or the government know. Elliot's brother Michael and his 5-year-old sister Gertie also help in keeping the mission as secretive as possible. The character of Elliot is played by Henry Thomas, and the cast includes Dee Wallace, Drew Barrymore, Robert McNaughton, Peter Coyote, along with many others. E.T. the Extraterrestrial was such a blockbuster at the time that it even surpassed Star Wars. It touched the hearts of many children as it created the best moral values within them. The film teaches us to stand by one another regardless of the differences that we carry. Despite being young, Elliot and his siblings did not hesitate to help the unusual being from space who desperately needed a hand. Spielberg also revealed the personal meaning behind the film that he wanted to showcase through the characters. We see Elliot helping E.T., but he also helps Elliot during the tough times of adjusting to the new family dynamic. Spielberg tried to convey how a helping hand can help a child overcome broken family struggles. He too suffered during the time when his parents were splitting up. This shared a strong resemblance with Elliot's situation. The absence of the father has created a void that E.T. was able to fill. This has made a great impact on children struggling with family conflict, and the inspiring cinematography gave the thoughts more color. The film had a record for the highest grossing movie for 10 years until Steven Spielberg's other movie, Jurassic Park, surpassed that record. This movie is constantly cherished as it is an iconic science fiction horror that showcases a tale of timeless and unconditional bond of friendship. In 2002, it was released again to celebrate its 20th anniversary, which shared uncut scenes and additional shots. What was the story of the unmade sequel? When it comes to the story of E.T. 2, it is unclear what the plot exactly was. The screenplay, written by Melissa Mathison and Steven Spielberg, makes it appear more like a horror film than a children's movie. Mathison was a famous writer who had written scripts for various children's movies, such as The Indian in the Cupboard, Kundan, The BFG, and Ponyo, and also was the screenplay writer for E.T. the Extraterrestrial. So when the treatment was was discussed, it seemed as if two very different writers had written it. Matheson and Spielberg wanted the sequel to take a darker turn, averting from the family-friendly, light-hearted children's movie trope. It was to be named E.T. 2 Nocturnal Fears, and the title itself is a big giveaway that this was going to get much more terrifying. The sequel begins with the concept that another alien ship arrives from where E.T. came from after detecting a distress call from one of their kind, but they aren't the friendly kind. No, they aren't. These aliens have a genetic mutation that caused them to look albino, and the two kinds have always been at war with each other. They also have the ability to hum a hypnotic tune to paralyze their victims and imprison them on their ships. It's also revealed that E.T.'s real name was Zrek. The hostile aliens then kidnap Elliot, Michael, and Gertie in order to lure Zrek back and torture the kids till they are mentally and physically drained. Meanwhile, Elliot's parents got divorced because the mother, Mary, had started dating Dr. Keyes when the first movie ended. E.T. only appears in the final act of the movie when he hears Elliot's blood-curdling scream across space and hurries to his rescue. He rescues the children from the spaceship prison and sends the ship to the other corner of the galaxy by fiddling with the navigation settings. They all escape the spaceship before it goes flying into the unknown. Why did the sequel never happen, and was it for the best? There are so many reasons that the sequel didn't get past the treatment phase, but the prominent one is because of the direction it was going in. The first movie was an iconic hit. Everyone knew of the adorable, harmless alien and his adventures with three curious children. But what Matheson intended for the sequel was far from being child-friendly. The whole concept was actually inspired by the Kentucky Hopkinsville incident in 1955, where two families were terrorized by a group of small, metallic green hovering aliens playing peekaboo with them for a whole night. It was a pretty terrifying experience that they had, but Spielberg spun it into the inquisitive and sweet alien we know and adore. With our main characters getting mentally tortured, Elliot's parents divorced, and the introduction of hostile carnivorous aliens into the roster, it didn't seem to be the most exciting sequel to a kids movie. Even Spielberg was glad that a sequel was not greenlit because he thought that the sequel would ruin the originality. What Matheson intended might be just a way to tell children that life is unpredictable and sometimes even the most familiar things start to look strange. Just because you had a dream when you were a child doesn't guarantee that life will pan out exactly how you envisioned it will in your childhood dream. Although we agree that E.T. on its own is for the best, it also gives ideas about the possibilities of how exciting and how morbid the sequel would have been. From children getting kidnapped and mentally tortured to cattle getting mutilated, how far would the directors go to make it terrifying on screen? Elements such as hostile aliens trying to find their own kind on a foreign planet do make a good horror movie in the right direction, but as a sequel to an all-time favorite children's movie, we have to disagree here. With all the reasons included, we might not ever get to see the darker version of E.T., but that is actually okay, as we can revisit the original and relish the memories we have with it. We probably don't need a traumatic sequel, but it does make us curious to know how it could have turned out. Who knows, someone might pick the sequel up in the future, and we'd then get to witness the continuation of the bleak ending we got in the first movie. Knowing Spielberg's expertise in sequels is not something that we can turn a blind eye to. The Lost World, Jurassic Park, along with 4 sequels of Indiana Jones, were all directed by him. The Temple of Dark has gotten an outstanding response from the audience, and keeping that in mind, the sequel of E.T. still holds the potential to be a strong thriller horror. The theme of evil aliens and intense interrogations could lead to a quite committing plot, but Spielberg's feeling of hurting the originality is something that we do understand. E.T. will remain to be one of the greatest ever sci-fi thrillers ever made, and it stands strong even as a solo movie without needing a sequel or a retelling. What, though, is your take on this? Should there be a sequel, or should E.T. be left as it is with the sweet loving memory that it gave us in our childhood? Please Tell us in the comments below. And if you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and please subscribe to us if you haven't already. Do have a good one, and please be safe.